One of the things Donald Trump has to do is to put people in positions who understand what the mandate is. And the mandate is not for people to go who are looking for their next job. It's not for people to come into positions who are trying to figure out how to keep Donald Trump's agenda from taking place, which is now clear and let's just be clear. It is the American agenda. The people have overwhelmingly voted to give Donald Trump the presidency. And with that comes his authority to appoint people, employ people, and to send people who will make that happen. And so far, every single person who has been picked are people who really understand what the voters said last week, and that's good.
Yeah, we're also hearing reports that Senator Marco Rubio has been tapped as Secretary of State, South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem as Homeland Security Secretary, and Florida Congressman Michael Waltz as National Security Advisors. Now, with that being said, are you concerned about Trump taking from his House and Senate majorities for his cabinet?
Not as much from the Senate, because a governor can immediately appoint a senator. And so if he picks someone from a Republican state where the governor's Republican, it's not a big issue.
Yeah.
It could be an issue in the House. And I'm hoping that, we're very careful that we don't do anything to get rid of our majority, because that is going to be crucial to the president's agenda. But I'm sure he's a good math person, good business person. He knows how to count, to 218. So I feel confident that he and his team are looking at all of that in every appointment they make.
And one thing that we as journalists are all waiting with bated breath is who he will pick as his press secretary. So earlier in the show, we were joined by political analyst Mark Halperin. He had some thoughts on who might take on the podium. So here is what he had to say, and then I want to get your take.
Well, I had been told it almost certainly would be the case that it would be a woman. Donald Trump likes to see a woman behind the podium, but I think Scott Jennings now of Kentucky has a good chance to get it. A lot of support for him on social media. A lot of people think he's just the right person to stand up to what will be a hostile press corps in the main in the room. So I'm not sure it's decided yet. It's the kind of job Donald Trump loves to continue to mull over in his mind, but I wouldn't rule out Scott Jennings at this point.
All right. So do you agree with Mark? I know your daughter, the governor of Arkansas, took on the role for a few years as well. So do you think it could be a woman?
I think it could be. I love the idea of Scott Jennings. The guy's great. I mean, he's an absolute tiger. And as far as having a woman at the podium, maybe he could just dress up in a dress and he could say, I identify as a woman. And in this crazy world we live in today, that would be fine. But Scott Jennings would be good for this one reason. If anybody has now had some great experience in sparring with the far left and understanding what he's going to be going into in that press room, Scott Jennings would be the guy. But let's face it, Donald Trump has a lot of people that could fill that role, fill it well. It's a tough role, especially in a Trump presidency, because that room is filled with some people who are not friendly.
Yeah.
And whoever goes there has to have a tough spine and absolutely nerves of steel.
Yeah, definitely not friendly. That's what I wanted to ask you. Do you think that it will be as hostile now as it was during his last presidency?
Oh, absolutely. It may be worse. And I think that's one of the reasons that the people overwhelmingly elected him, because they understand that when he's president, he's not just fighting for him, he's fighting for us. He's fighting for all those people out there in America who have been looked down on by the snobs, the elites, the folks who are sipping wine and nibbling cheese in Georgetown cocktail parties and really don't care about the rest of the country and think we're a bunch of deplorable, low-life garbage, racist, sexist, homophobe, transphobe deplorables.
The list goes on.
So, yes, I think it's going to be a good time.
So we know that Donald Trump is set to meet with President Biden tomorrow at the White House. Why was this so important for Trump to take this meeting?
Well, it shows that there is going to be an orderly transition of power. I commend President Biden for making that gesture. It also, though, points out that clearly all this talk about Donald Trump as a Nazi and a fascist, it was all lies, and we all knew it. And I hope that, that air is cleared, because if he really was a Nazi, no way would a sitting president invite a Nazi into the White House. So let's get rid of all that nonsense. It was campaign talk. And frankly, look, if you're a candidate, you expect to be called a lot of stuff. That's part of the deal. It crossed the line when they started calling the supporters and the voters these things. That's when it got out of hand, and I think it really hurt the Democrats. They've got a lot to overcome.
Information. truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.